Hey friends, happy Friday. We made it another week. So we are on chapter 4 today in our read aloud of Ranger in Time Rescue on the Oregon Trail. So Mr. Jordy here with the ebook, and here we go. Chapter 4, Wagon Train West. Amelia! Sam caught only a glimpse of his sister before it happened. She was across the square next to one of the oxen. The dog was there too, barking like crazy. But the moment Sam stepped into the square, one of the men tackled the other, and they rolled through the dust. It was all too much for the nervous horses. One reared up and then another, and the next thing Sam knew, a yoke of oxen had broken free, and the beasts were racing toward him. "Watch out, son!" A rough hand closed around his arm and yanked him out of the way just as the oxen thundered past. When they were gone, the man let go of Sam's arm and shook his head. "Those young men from St. Louis are nothing but trouble. They got gold fever, and it's turned them into a pack of fools." Sam could only stare at the man in the square, rushing after runaway oxen and a terrified horse. He looked across to where he'd seen his sister, but she was gone. Without thanking the man or saying goodbye, Sam took off across the square. "Amelia!" She didn't answer. People were staring at Sam now, but he didn't care. He swiped tears from his eyes with his shirt sleeve. Then he stood in the center of the square, searching. He couldn't see her anywhere. Sam felt a hand on his arm. "Do you need help?" He turned and saw a girl about his age. Her eyes were full of concern. "Who's Amelia?" "My sister," Sam said. "I was supposed to be watching her and—" "I'll help you look," the girl said, pushing through the crowd. "Amelia!" Sam called, even louder. It was hopeless. Even if she answered, he'd never be able to hear in all this chaos. But then he heard a bark. Sam whirled around toward the sound, and there, tucked into the blacksmith's doorway, was the dusty golden dog, standing guard over Amelia. No, not standing guard so much as holding her prisoner. Every time Amelia tried to toddle back into the busy square, the dog moved to block her way. Sam ran over and scooped his sister up in his arms. "We found you!" "That doggy did," she said, looking down at the dog slobber on her skirt. "He pushed me over here." The other girl gave the dog a pat. "Good dog. Thanks for offering to help me," Sam told her. "It was no trouble. I have plenty of experience tracking down little runaways." She smiled at Amelia. "You have sisters too?" The girl shook her head. "Mother and father wanted a big family, but only got me. I have lots of cousins, though, that I help look after. They've already gone west, and we're joining them now. I'm Sarah Ferguson, by the way." "Sam Abbott," he shook her hand. "We're off to the Oregon Territory. My Uncle Thomas and his family went out last year." Amelia squirmed, so Sam put her down, but kept a tight grip on her hand. The dog stayed close to her, too. "Maybe you should come with us, dog. You're better at watching Amelia than I am." Ranger barked and licked Sam's hand. Sarah laughed. "He'd make a fine nursemaid. I'd better get back to my parents. I hope I'll see you on the trail." She waved and hurried off toward the wagons. Sam bent down to scratch behind the dog's ear, then touched the metal box Ranger carried. "What's that?" Sam lifted it from around Ranger's neck, opened it up, and looked at the bandages and vials tucked inside. "You carrying these supplies for someone?" Sam looked around. "Where's your owner, dog?" Ranger tipped his head. Where was Luke? Ranger had found the person. Wasn't it time to go home? But then Ranger remembered back to one of his last training sessions. He'd found Luke hiding in an old barrel and was ready to get his ears scratched and go home. But Dad waved a baseball hat and said, "Find more." Ranger had to keep searching until he found Luke's friend Will behind a big box. Sometimes more than one person needed to be found. Could this be one of those times? "You're lost, aren't you?" Sam looked to the boy. That doesn't make sense. "You're lost, aren't you?" Sam looked the dog over. "Maybe you can really come with us." Ranger didn't know what else to do, so he followed Sam and little Amelia back to the Abbott's wagon. The person called Ma gave Ranger a grumpy look at first, but when Sam told her what happened, she softened and tossed Ranger a scrap of bacon. It was greasy and salty and good. Sam had a bigger family than Luke. Besides his little sister, Amelia, and their parents, Sam had a big sister named Lizzie and a baby brother named Isaac, who rode around in Ma's arms most of the time. Amelia was always trying to wander, though. Ranger stayed close to her while the rest of the family packed barrels and crates. They tucked Ranger's metal box from the garden alongside some tools and even loaded the chicken coop onto their wagon. When it was full and the big animals were attached to the front, Sam knelt down in the dirt next to Ranger. "You're coming with us, right? Right, boy?" Ranger looked around for Luke. Where was he? Sam scratched Ranger behind his ear and stood up. "It's time to head out on the trail." Ranger looked for Luke again. He couldn't find him, but he saw the little girl, Amelia, tugging away from her big sister's hand, trying to run off. Ranger decided he needed to help look after her. Out on the trail, wherever that was, Sam was going. It looked like all the bacon was going. Maybe Luke would be going there too. So when the Abbott family left Independence, Missouri, that morning, Ranger followed their wagon down the well-worn path and out of town. So he is going to join the family. And here is a picture. So this is what the wagon train looks like. So you can see these wagons right here, the covered wagons. And there's Ranger and Sam walking alongside. And that is the end of chapter 4. We will start chapter 5 on Monday, and chapter 5 is called Miles and Buffalo Dung. Ooh, sounds interesting. You friends have a great weekend, and Mr. Jordy will see you on Monday. Bye, guys.